Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Zenaton, and welcome to today's video for Legends of Runeterra. Spoiler season is still here. We got a lot of cards today to talk about. Only one page of cards. We got some nice support cards today. No champion, sadly. I feel like we'll probably get a Relia tomorrow, though, so we have that to look forward to. But yes, today's cards we have are Ionia and Shurima support cards. So, yeah. Looks like some archetypes who have needed some help are getting some help. So let's go and look at those cards. Why not, right? Okay, here we go. A lot of cards here, a lot of cards. There are what, 5, 6 cards here? So let's get started. First off, Solari Sunhawk. 2 mana, 2/3, Daybreak. Stun the strongest enemy, and then it's a skill too. As you can see down there below, Blinding Crest is the skill. So you could counter this, I guess. More Daybreak synergy is nice, I guess, to see for Leona. Leona is a champion that's very, very rarely played for a lot of reasons. I don't think Solari Sunhawk and the other card I have, ra-horak, will help out the Sun or help out Leona. But, you know, new cards for them because I believe in the previous release there were no Daybreak cards at all. The most recent one is the Solari Sunforger. I think that's the name of the card, the 4 mana 5/4 that gets lifesteal for the turn when you Daybreak it. As for the Sunhawk itself, how good is it? It's fighting in the Daybreak deck for the Solari Shieldbearer slot. Maybe you play both of them in the same deck. I don't know. Also, of course, because it says stun, everyone's like, well, Yasuo Leona maybe again, but again, you run into the same problem of you need to have Yasuo. If you don't have Yasuo, the deck kind of sucks. But yes, I like to look at Solari Sunhawk as Solari Shieldbearer, basically. That's a little worse in the early game, but better in the late game, if that makes sense. Worse in the early game in that it can't really trade with your opponent's stuff and live if you obviously Daybreak it. And it can also block Fearsome. That's usually a very big thing sometimes in certain metas. Not in this meta. Blocking Fearsome's not that important in this meta outside of maybe, I guess, Spiders, which isn't that popular of a deck. But I feel like it's going to be an interesting card. I feel like you might want to be able to make use of the stun. I guess it is, since it is a skill too, it should pop Spell Shield, so that's nice. It's a fairly cheap way for Targon to pop Spell Shield. Now they don't have to use like a Hush to pop Spell Shield, so that's pretty cool if you want to play a cheap-ish way to pop Spell Shields, to pop the Spell Shield of, I guess, like Ruin Runners or Severes, maybe. So that's nice too, but the card, in terms of playability, I don't think it's unplayable. I think it's a solid card. I don't think it's like nuts or crazy or it's going to be OP. And it gives some life to the Yasuo Leona decks, which is, Yasuo needs the help. Speaking of stun stuff, next card, Eye of ra-horak. 5 mana landmark, countdown 1, stun the 2 weakest enemies. If you Daybreak it, summon a copy of me with countdown 2. So it basically will be like, the first one will pop, stun the 2 enemies, then your next turn starts, and then the second one pops and it also stuns 2 enemies. That's a lot of stuns for Yasuo, so that's pretty cool. And it's also a lot of mana on landmarks for Malphite. I kind of like this card for Malphite if you are not playing Shurima. I was talking about this when Malphite was first revealed. I was saying how I think Malphite might want to only be in Shurima because outside of Shurima and Targon, the other regions, well, they don't have that many landmarks. And I was thinking to myself, maybe Targon, just Targon alone would not be enough to carry another region with only like 1 or maybe 2 landmarks. Now, thanks to Eye of ra-horak, that's basically 10 mana out of the 12 mana that Malphite needs if you Daybreak it, of course. So I like this card. It helps you, it lets you play Malphite in some regions where their landmarks are not that playable, like Ionia. So you can now play Malphite Yasuo, because if I remember correctly, Ionia only has 1 landmark, and that is Monastery of Harana, which is kind of mediocre. So this is pretty sweet for Malphite decks, and of course Yasuo decks. Yasuo kind of likes this card too. The issue I have is it is a 5 mana landmark that doesn't really do much on the board. Like, sure, it slows your opponents down by stunning their stuff. You can't choose what to stun, and it stuns the weakest thing. So if they have anything big, they can still attack it with the big stuff. Now, of course, like, if your opponent has more than 2 units on the field already, you are probably already fairly far behind. And there is the nice curve of a turn 4 Yasuo, turn 5 Eye of ra-horak. That's a pretty sweet curve. It's going to be a little tough to hold up Deny with that, but, you know, it's still a decent curve. But outside of those, like, those decks, I don't see another deck I don't see another pairing or another deck that wants this card, like, outside of Yasuo or Malphite decks. Talia, maybe? I don't know, because you'd have to play like this on turn 5, and turn 5 is when you want to play Talia. And is this even a good thing to copy with Talia? I don't think so. So yeah, outside of Malphite and outside of Yasuo, I don't really think I have ra-horak's good. Maybe Leona because of Daybreak, but I don't think this is really that good for Leona. Like, maybe you use it as like some weird tempo-y finisher with Leona, but I feel like if you want to spend a big or use a big tempo-y finisher, you have Morning Light, which in my opinion is just better. Sure, it requires you to have Leona and a leveled up Leona, and you have to Daybreak it, but I kind of just like Morning Light better. I play it as a one of or whatever. Anyway, though, that's what I think about Eye of ra-horak. So the Targon cards, they're okay. They're fine. Nothing amazing, nothing crazy, which is fine because Targon has been getting good cards a lot recently. So it's fine if they're, in my opinion, it's fine if their cards are getting this set are a little weaker than normal, or they need a little bit more work to make good. Anyway, though, speaking of bad cards, Ionia. Shadows of the Past. 5 mana fast spell. Okay. A little expensive there. What's it do? Recall each ally and summon a living shadow in its place. Living shadows, if you don't remember, I believe are the 3/2s with the ephemeral, the things that Zed summons. Cool. Like, what deck wants this, in my opinion? That's the issue. I don't know what kind of deck wants this. You have, if you were trying to recall your stuff to keep it safe, you have what? Homecoming and Go Get It as well to try and protect yourself. So you like need a wide board to protect it. I've seen some people say like, oh, it's anti-ruination or anti-board clear tech, and I'm just like, but doesn't Deny just do that as well? And isn't this clunkier than Deny in that case? There may be some like weird stuff. We have Dancing Droplet, which we'll talk about later, which you might be able to combo with that, but you're spending a lot of mana to basically bounce your stuff back to hand, and then you have to spend that mana again, spend a lot of mana again just to re-summon everything. So hopefully you have some good summon abilities or something, because I don't know. I don't think it's good enough for Constructed, and I don't really think any deck wants this. No idea. But yeah, it just feels a little too expensive, and like, sure, replacing your stuff, like the dream, I guess, is like combat happens, you do some blocks, you play shadows, you recall your board, and then the living shadows trade with their things. But is that good? Like, and is that achievable? Like, on paper it's achievable, but how often can you get that done? Like, how consistent is that? I don't think it's consistent at all. I just don't think the card is good enough. It feels a little too clunky. Like, for aggro decks, I feel like aggro decks would rather do something else. Control decks, I think, don't play enough units for this card to actually matter. They'd rather just play Homecoming or Go Get It. I hope Go Get It's the right KDA card that I'm thinking of. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe with Aurelia, this will look good, but we'll have to wait for that. Let's skip over the Shurima cards for now and continue talking about Ionia, because we're on the recall synergy stuff. So let's talk about this guy. Dancing Droplet. 1 mana, 1/1, attune and elusive. When I'm recalled, draw 1. I like it. I think it is a solid card on its own. The issue is, in my opinion, recalling stuff to bounce and bouncing stuff back to your hand, in my opinion, is just a little too slow for the meta, and the payoff for it is not that high. Now, there is a cute combo you can do with Dancing Droplet. It's a 3-card combo and it doesn't give you much, but you play Dancing Droplet on 1. On turn 2, you will play Retreat, the 2-mana spell that that bounces a unit back to your hand. So the 2-mana Retreat will bounce this Dancing Droplet back to your hand. You draw a card, of course. Since Dancing Droplet has a tune, you should have 1 spell mana left, and then you will use Return that the Retreat created to summon a Zed. That will power out a Zed 1 turn earlier, and a Zed on 2 does dodge some things that a Zed on 3 wouldn't, namely things like Avalanche. Now, that is a 3-card combo to what? Just summon a really fast Zed, and it's not even that fast? I don't think that's worth it. And I guess it does draw a card, too, because of the droplet, but I don't think that's a good enough combo for Constructed. I think it's too clunky, and I don't think the payoff is high enough. It's a 3-card combo who is just not consistent enough, and even when it goes off, it's not a very high payoff. So, I don't know. Again, like I said earlier with Shadows of the Past, maybe Aurelia will bring in some recall synergy to help out Dancing Droplet. Maybe Aurelia, Yasuo, recall, stun, mid-range tempo will be pretty good. And of course, I should mention Monastery of Harana as well. Monastery of Harana, bouncing back, Dancing Droplet's very cute, but that's very slow. And then you're playing Monastery of Harana as well. But I do think I do honestly think something with Dancing Droplet might be meta. Because if you can recall this and replay it and recall it over and over and over, that is a lot of draw and cycle through your deck to try and find cool small combos and synergies for the deck to try and get an advantage that way. Or maybe people just use it as a 1-mana 1/1 elusive for beatdown. Don't know. Anyway though, Shurima cards. First up, we got the Profiteer. Profiteer is a 4-mana 5/3 that says, when I'm summoned, create a Lucky Find in hand. Lucky Finds, if you don't remember, are those small buffs from other Shurima cards. If I remember correctly, Lucky Finds are fleeting as well, so it is basically a spend it when you get it, or it's gone. They also cost 0 mana, I believe, so they're free, so you don't have to worry about that. As for Profiteer, I like the card. First off, 5/3, that's really nice for any decks that care about reputation. Very nice reputation activator. 5/3 for 4 is not a terrible stat line. Little fragile, but not terrible. You could try to use a Lucky Find to give it some extra health with +0/+2 or +1/+1. Maybe give it quick attack or spell shield or challenger. I believe you can get those off of Lucky Finds. Not really sure though what kind of deck wants the Profiteer. If Fiora was still a 3 health card, I'd say, oh boy, mono Fiora with Shurima can play Profiteer. That's pretty sweet. But I don't think Fiora is playable, is the issue with that, even with a Profiteer. Outside of that, I just really don't see it. I guess like maybe more of a mid-rangey deck that for some reason uses reputation and less aggressive. Because Profiteer is fighting for the 4-drop slot with what? Rampaging Bakai? Rampaging Bakai has the same exact stat line, but instead of creating a Lucky Find, it gives a enemy unit vulnerable and -1/-0. And that is a permanent debuff. I feel like that is much more valuable than the Lucky Find you'll get from Profiteer. Of course, you can always play both, but I don't know. Anyway, though, last card, and it's a good one. Another Shurima card, Merciless Hunter. 3-mana 4/3, Fearsome. Play, grant an enemy vulnerable. This card is crazy good. So unless I'm forgetting one, but pretty much all the units that have given or give vulnerable have seen play to an extent. Hired Gun, Bakai Sandspinner, and I think Sheriff Lariat Rose even has seen a little bit of play. So I'm going to say it now, Merciless Hunter is going to see not just a little bit of play, but I think Merciless Hunter is going to see a lot of play, in fact. First off, let's look at the card if it didn't give the vulnerable. A 3-mana 4/3 with Fearsome is almost playable enough already, in my opinion. Recently, actually, there was that 3-mana 3/2 Spider in Shadow Isles that said it gets +1/+1 in Fearsome if an allied creature died. Merciless Hunter is basically that card, but it doesn't need an ally to die. Sure, you can say like, well, that's in Shadow Isles, this is in Shurima, different regions, of course. But the fact that this doesn't need any setup is huge. And the fact that the vulnerable is permanent too and not temporary, like the vulnerable from, say, Exhaust or Ye Been Warned is pretty nice too. So just in case you don't kill that unit that you gave vulnerable to turn, you can make another go at it. So yeah, good stat line, good keyword, good playability. Insane. Now, of course, you might say like, well, doesn't Shurima play Bakai Reaper? You might play this with, and I said Bakai Reaper, I meant Bakai Sandspinner. I think that's the 4-mana one. It's a Bakai something. But you'll probably play this with the Bakai Sandspinner as well. And here, another reason why I really like this card is Renekton. This card curves really well into Renekton. Play Merciless Hunter on 3, Renekton on 4. You've got a nice setup for your Renekton to get a really good attack in and work towards his level up. Insane. I really do like all this like vulnerable synergy that Shurima's going. You got what? Exhaust, Rockhopper, Merciless Hunter, Bakai Sandspinner, and probably a few other cards that I can't think of. I guess like Renekton's Champion Spell. I can't remember the name of it. But it's really sweet. And this card is really nuts. I do think it's more of an aggressive card, though. I think more control decks that want to give vulnerable would rather play Exhaust or maybe Bakai Sandspinner if they want to play a unit, or of course Rockhopper as well if they have landmark synergies. But for more aggressive decks, this is really, really nice for them. And I'm a little scared of it because Fearsome is scary. So yeah. Shurima has some nice cards here. Ionia has an interesting card. Shadows, I think, is bad, but Dancing Droplet seems pretty nice. And of course, Ionia, well, they got some synergistic cards for Daybreak and Leona, I guess. So that's nice too. Still though, all in all, really nice cards. I like pretty much all of them except for Shadows of the Past in certain decks. So that's gonna be it for today. I think each of these cards, except for Shadows of the Past, has a home. As for how good those homes are, only time will tell. Maybe you guys have an idea for Shadows of the Past that I can't think of, or just any other card here that I can't think of. Maybe I've missed some synergies that I can't think of. I'd love to hear it down below if you've got anything to say. If you just enjoy the video in general, and of course, if you could leave a comment or a like down below, it always helps me out and stuff. And if you want to keep up with the Runeterra content, you can always go and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you want to catch me playing some Legends of Runeterra, you can always go and check me out over on twitch.tv at twitch.tv/Sanitin. I stream there pretty much every single day, playing lots of Legends of Runeterra. Anyway, though, with that all said and done, thank you all again once more for watching this video. And until I see you guys in the next one, bye!